This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
And welcome to the This Week in Sports with Mac, Jack, and Jim Jeffcoat. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Jack Hirsch, former boxing president of the Boxing Writers Association of America. Jim Jeffcoat, of course, two-time Super Bowl champion with the Dallas Cowboys. Today we'll have on Keith Engle, Robert Butler, the Philly sports guy, and our special guest, Kermit Washington, former NBA player with the Celtics, drafted by the Lakers, also played with a few other teams. So we'll get to him about 9:30. So thanks for joining us. How you doing today, guys?
Hey, good, fellas.
Doing great.
Excellent. So I wasn't sure where to start with this week. There's a lot of news out there, but I want to start with Wembanyama. He goes his first appearance in the summer league. He has a whopping 9 points in front of a packed house versus rookies and other veterans in the summer league. And Jim, you've been critical of Wembanyama. I don't know if critical is the right word or not, but you've been saying let's not get our hopes up kind of with Wembanyama. And I'll let you go and have at it right now. What do you think?
Well, I wanted to watch the game because I wanted to have some comments on it. I think the kid has ability, but here's the problem. I always said he didn't play in the top league in France, and it's showing up because Brandon Miller put him. I mean, it was embarrassing when Brandon Miller, but that could happen. But the kid has some interesting abilities. He can dribble, and he can shoot, and he does have that height. He's just got to get stronger. Perfect example is when Chet Holmgren, who was from Gonzaga last year, and he hurt his foot. I think he broke his foot, and he couldn't play. Do you see? And if you look at him last year, he looked like Wembanyama, but this year he looks like a NBA player, and it's showing. It's showing. And I think this is it. There's a process that you have to go through. This kid, when you see LeBron, and guys like that, LeBron was 260 pounds coming in the NBA. I mean, he was a grown man. This kid has got to get weight on him. I think he's going to be a really good player now after watching him, but it's going to take time.
Jim's a hater. Wembanyama is going to be a great player. Jim has to understand they have to develop. He's not going to come in. He's not going to start dominating. He's a tall, thin kid. He's got to physically develop. As you're saying, but you're saying he's going to be a very good player. He's going to be a great player. You want to know something? The San Antonio Spurs are already showing their faith in him indirectly. Do you know they just signed Coach Pop to a 5-year deal to make him the highest paid coach in the history of the NBA? 5 years, and he's age 74.
Jack, you got to also remember, in the NBA, you're playing the best in the world. Remember that. And this kid, good morning, Rick, but this kid has to go through a growing process. I'm not saying he'll be a very good player, but is he on the level of LeBron, Kareem, guys like that? I don't think so. At this point, I don't see it.
Kareem was a 4-year player at UCLA.
Yes.
4-year player, one of the great high school players as well.
Yes.
No one expects him to be that in the beginning. I mean, we're talking 3-4 years down the line when Wembanyama is going to start making his mark. I think he's going to be a very good player. I really do. After watching him, he has some unique skills. It's going to take time, though. And you're right, 3 or 4 years.
Good morning, Rick.
Keith Engle didn't wake up and just be his greatness. He didn't bring his greatness in.
Go, Keith. I think he did bring his greatness in. I mean, he's
I just wake up and it's there. It's just
he's too professional.
Whoa. Why do we have to stop when Keith Engle walks into a team meeting after the meeting gets started? Everyone has to stop. That's what it's the equivalent of. We're having a team meeting. Keith walks in and we all have to stop and start over. He's like the student who comes late to class and he expects the teacher to repeat what they said. He's just got to make it on time.
Jack is on a roll this morning, Keith. How are you this morning, Keith?
8:05 is my time that Matt gives me, so I always show up early.
That's why you should get fined. Coach Coughlin would fine players for coming 5 minutes early, let alone late.
We're all kind of a little distraught right now with what's going on with the Yankees, and it's kind of they won yesterday, but
it's been a tough week.
I guess Jim wants to talk about the Yankees first, so we'll talk about them first, Steve. Stan has 2 home runs, so he's earned his salary for the year. That's it. He's done.
He'll get hurt for a month.
He's all set. Rondon looks solid in his first performance, Keith. So that's gotta be something.
I feel good about that. Yes, I mean I still have my reservations about whether that will continue, but at this point I gotta hope it does, because the pitching staff is just in disarray. Severino's just been awful. He may not even stay in the rotation the way it looks. So, yeah,
I heard he might be going to become a reliever. They may put him in a bullpen.
And it's the one place the Yankees have some strength, and we need starters right now. That's the problem.
Let me ask you this question. I'm just asking: do you think this is happening with Major League Baseball because of that clock? These guys are throwing. I mean, I was watching the Rangers against the Washington's team, and just that clock. They're going on such a fast pace. They don't have that much time.
I do think that the clock has something to do with it. With certain guys, not everybody.
Yeah.
And if you've noticed, one of the things that I noticed is that kids who spent time in the minor leagues, more time in the minor leagues with the clock, they don't have to adjust to it. It's the guys who would never spend any time with the clock having the hardest time. And Max Scherzer, he's been a very outspoken critic at his thing, saying pitchers will get hurt. It's, changing their rhythm. Listen, it's probably, of all the rule changes, it's probably the one that I've come to live with the most, because I do think the pace of play needed to be picked up, but there's been some unintended consequences from it as well.
Yes. And I just was noticing that because I was watching a couple of games. And I was noticing that these pitchers don't look the same.
No. And
you're getting more runs now. You're obviously getting more runs.
Well, I mean, I'm glad, because there are pitchers out there that do pitch fast, and the batters will get out just to break their rhythm too, to stop them from pitching so fast. So I think it does help the pitchers that throw quickly. It does help them out a lot.
Yeah.
Keith, the Yankees recall, Frankie Cordero, up from the minors again because of injury. I think it was to Bauer, if I'm not mistaken. Have you ever seen the team send so many players down and bring so many players up during the year? I know injuries have something to do with it, but I mean, it seems like every day there's somebody going up and somebody coming down. And what have you ever seen anything like that?
Well, I'm sure I have. Not recently, and not with the Yankees. I mean, I can remember back. I have to go back 30 years to when the Yankees weren't very good. After their 70s dynasty, mini dynasty, where they were kind of having this same kind of thing: guys up and down, guys brought in and released, but it doesn't bode well when you don't have any kind of synergy on the team. It hurts you after a while. You don't build a team chemistry, and look at they're thin as it is. And if guys, the guys that are replacing the guys that they replaced are getting hurt, it's going to get ugly before it gets better, I'm afraid.
I think you can only go up or down 3 times before something happens too. There's some kind of rule.
Well, everybody's got an X amount of options where you can send them back and forth, and then you have to expose them to waivers after that.
Right, exactly.
That's why sometimes in a numbers game, you might see somebody who didn't warrant getting sent down because they couldn't send somebody else down because he was out of options. So.
Right. Rick brings up yesterday that Jack was saying that you could watch MLB game with home commentators. So there you go. I guess Rick checked it out. So Rick is fact checking you, Jack, and you passed this time. So
you can do that even on Prime. I know on Prime. I don't know about Apple, but I know on Prime I have the choice to watch the Yankees with the Yankee broadcast, or I can watch the Prime broadcast.
And can't you do on ESPN too, Keith?
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
ESPN.
I thought ESPN Plus you could do that.
The Major League Baseball package, you can do it. They have like all the games on there. But would you want to do that, watch a Yankee game with broadcasters from another team? It depends who the broadcasters are. If you have a particular favorite, you do it.
When I can get a day off from Michael Kay, I take it. I go.
I don't like Michael Kay either, Keith. I don't know. Doc,
I like Michael Kay. I'm an exception.
So anyway, let's get to some Patriots, some interesting news. And you brought up Friday. It's saying, I don't know if everybody knows this or not, but Bill Belichick may break the NFL record for the most losses before he breaks the record for the most wins.
Yep.
Now, this is going to be interesting down the road, Keith, if this happens, and say he does finish with more losses than wins. When they start comparing him to the greats, the NFL great coaches of all time, that stat's going to jump out, and they're going to say, well, he's not as good as Vince Lombardi. He's not as good as, as this guy or that guy, because he had more losses than wins. And I can see that happening. How about you?
Yeah, I don't. It depends. Look, he coached 3 times longer than Lombardi coached, for one thing. Tom Landry's number 5 on that list, as Jim
that's
probably
what I
knows.
was about to say.
And, you have to have been a very good coach to have been around long enough to lose 160 games.
I'm just telling you how revisionists will.
No, I don't doubt that. I think.
Yeah, but most of those losses came in Cleveland, correct?
He had
the majority of them came.
I think he was 36-44 at Cleveland, made the playoffs one year. Yeah, but Cleveland, they weren't too good of a team. I mean, he didn't elevate them to another level. In all fairness, well, I mean, you look at coaches, whether they elevate a team at all. They don't have to necessarily win championships.
Yeah,
Vince Lombardi, the one year he was with the Redskins after leaving the Packers, they were 7-5-2. It doesn't seem impressive until you remember they had 14 years in a row of losing seasons, and then he put them in the plus column.
Yeah, but Pete Carroll was. If you look at Pete Carroll's record, I'm sure he's on that list too.
He's not in the top 5, but he's probably around it because he's coached.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, though? He had a long break where he coached in college, so I don't know that his.
Yeah, but remember the Jets and then he
Patriots.
If I'm correct.
The only reason why I bring this up, guys, is because I know, after Bill Belichick retires, there's going to be, who's the greatest coach of all time? And they're going to put that percentage up, and they're going to say, well, of course, Bill Belichick shouldn't even be in the discussion anymore, no matter if he won all these Super Bowls. No, I know.
I think, look at 106. If he loses 170 games, let's say, whatever the number is, all I care about is this 6 that he won on the last day of the season to win the Super Bowl. How is that not? Exactly. How is that not more relevant than the losses when you won 6?
Yeah,
I mean, if you won one fluke Super Bowl and you lost 200 games, well, then I get it. But man, you're not wrong, Mac. There will be people that are Bill Belichick the tyrants who.
Yes. Keith is.
I'm getting some.
Well, bigger question, Keith. Let's say the rumors are true that there's a little dissension between Kraft and Belichick. Let's say, hypothetically, New England has a terrible year. They go 6-11, and behind the scenes, Kraft and Belichick are feuding, and Kraft fires Belichick at the end of the year. They both mutually decide to move on. Does Belichick coach elsewhere? He'll get a job. He'll get a job offer for sure.
My guess right now, my gut would say no, because he's going to be. I mean, I think he's 71 right now. I think, or maybe 2, maybe 72. So he'll be 73. I just don't think. I think he's done. Maybe he'll take a front office job, a consultant job, like Parcells did with the Dolphins, and maybe he'll do something like that, regardless of how he leaves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Jack is right. Belichick can get a job anywhere when he coaches, basically almost anywhere. That doesn't have
if he wants one.
Yeah,
if he wants one. Yeah,
there's no doubt about that. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Knicks, but I don't see any big injuries or any big rumors. I know they're starting the summer league. Did you see anything from the Knicks in the summer league that you're looking for? Any rookies, any vets that are staying with the team, Keith?
I haven't seen a lot of summer league play, to be honest with you. I haven't watched. It's not something that I really put a lot of emphasis on, but I think the thing to watch for right now is what happens with Fournier in that contract, because I don't think he'll be part of this team come training camp. And I do think that he's a serviceable player for him because he's got that expiring contract, which teams normally like.
Yeah.
They didn't play him last year, Keith. He has no value.
The value is in his contract that's going to expire. That's his value.
Because you saw Patty Mills, what happened with Patty Mills. He got traded 3 times in 10 days because of his expiring contract.
Yeah.
A few other news I want to get to, and Jim will have a comment on this. Dylan, who played for Cincinnati and the Patriots, so you know him too, Keith. He's kind of upset that he's not getting notoriety, that he's not in the Ring of Honor in Cincinnati, that he's not, Hall of Fame. He's not been at least, what's the word I'm looking for, like Jim was, that put on a ballot or anything like that. And Jim, I know that locally here, I contributed a lot. We have like what they call a town Hall of Fame, right? And as a player and coach, I did a lot for the town. I was pretty successful at both. I never got in that thing. I probably never will. But I'm not bitter about that. I know what I did. I know the accomplishments I made. And you on a much larger scale, you only made 1 Pro Bowl. You're not in the Ring of Honor yet. You got nominated to go to the Hall of Fame, but you never made it in. I mean, are you bitter about that, Jim? Or
why would you be bitter? I mean, it's the experience of there. And I understand what Corey Dillon is saying. He's, from my understanding, and Rick makes a good point. You still, what you're all very good is not bad. But the problem is with Corey Dillon's situation is the way they vote their Hall of Fame in Cincinnati is through the fans.
Yeah.
And it's not through the Paul Brown. So, well, it's not really Paul Brown.
Wait. One thing I don't get, Corey Dillon, maybe he's deserving. I'm not saying he's not. But he forced his way out of Cincinnati. You force your way out of an organization, and then you want them to basically throw a benefit for you, a testimonial dinner or something.
You guys talk about stats. You look at his stats. It's up there with some of the top players in the NFL.
He leads the franchise in rushing yards by a large margin. And I get what Jack's saying. He did force his way out, and if the fans are in control of this, then he'll probably never get it. But he is deserving.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are deserving. I just saw an article where Terrell Owens said that Darren Woodson should be in the Hall of Fame before John Lynch. And honestly, playing with Darren and knowing Darren, he is a Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame is certainly, there's certainly a higher standard when you're talking about a team Hall of Fame, a Ring of Honor, and you're only honoring what they did for that franchise. And Corey Dillon probably belongs. But Corey Dillon always had a mercurial, with the Bengals. He's straightened out his act. He's one of those bad acts into the Patriots and really conformed and contributed to a Super Bowl champion there.
No question.
Mac, you asked Jim, was he bitter? Jim says no, and I believe Jim. But it's all a comparison game. If lesser players than Jim got in the Ring of Honor for Dallas, Jim would be mad about it. He'd be upset about it, despite what he says. If a much lesser player got in, and that's what Corey Dillon was complaining about in part. If a guy like Anthony Munez is getting in ahead of him, I don't think there's any complaints there.
No, but Jack, that's why people criticize Jerry, and I think Jimmy Johnson should be in the Hall of Fame. But Darren Woodson is
Ring of Honor, you mean?
He's in the Ring of Honor.
He's in the Hall. Yeah, he
is in the Ring of Honor, and Woodson is in the Ring of Honor. You have no problems with that. But they were, they helped the success of the Cowboys. So that's it. And not everybody's going to get in the Ring of Honor. Not everybody's going to get in the Hall of Fame. It's a very exclusive club, and it should be.
Well, I think me, Jack, and maybe even Keith are more upset you're not, in the Ring of Honor or in the Hall of Fame than you are. So it's funny the way that stuff works out. There's other thing I wanted to get with Keith and your opinion, you guys, before we are, before Keith has to go. The new NBA midseason tournament they got going on here that Silverman has been trying to get in there for past few years. They finally got it in with the latest contract. So this is how it works out. And I was going to bring it up Friday, and Jack said, wait till we get the official word. So here it is. The new annual tournament for all 30 teams starts on 3 November and ends in December with a championship on December 9th in Las Vegas. All teams will be randomly drawn into a group of 5, 1 game versus each opponent, to 2 games at home, 2 in a row, knockout round, single eliminations, compete for a prize pool and a new in-season trophy called the NBA Cup. And here's the conferences real quick. Group A is Philadelphia, Cleveland, Atlanta, and Indianapolis. And Detroit. Group B is Milwaukee, New York, Miami, Washington, and Charlotte. And last group is Boston, Brooklyn, Toronto, Chicago, and Orlando. So those are the 3 groups that they randomly drew. It's not, they drew them based off winning percentage, but these teams were randomly drew to go into each group. What is the purpose of this? I have no idea.
I see none. I see no purpose at all. You've already playing for a championship during the regular season. I don't understand what they're doing. I get they want to copy the WBC a little bit, but then make it an international competition if you're going to play something like this.
Exactly.
Value in that. USA and all the other countries playing like they do in baseball and soccer and whatever else. That would be worthy to me, but this, just to watch teams that are already playing against each other play against each other in a tournament, I don't get it. It's probably for a money grab and whatever. I don't get it.
I have no idea why they would do something like that.
No.
I don't know. The AFC West is named the NFL's most overrated in the league. Some of us have said that before. Denver and the Raiders, I think, are the 2 teams that really are the reason why they're saying that. I think Kansas City and San Diego are 2 really good. Of course, KC being the Super Bowl champion. And I think San Diego is
overrated goes according to expectations. That poll should have come out a year ago when big things were expected of all 4 teams. We no longer expect that, so I don't see how it's overrated at this point.
That's a good point.
But Jack, be careful, because now they're saying the AFC East is going to do what the AFC West was supposed to do last year.
Well, that means Miami, New England, Buffalo. One of them is going to have a down year, maybe 2 of them.
Not the Jets.
Did you see the picture of Aaron Rodgers in the weight room, guys? He is.
Oh my God! I was. Something.
Did you see Aaron Rodgers there smiling in the weight room? Man,
I was going to get to the Jet news later, and we still are. But if that's the Jets' biggest story, well,
that is the biggest story.
That's the biggest story for the Jets. So.
That one photo itself has me psyched.
Okay. Now you got a new poster for your wall, Jack.
Yeah.
Heard here, Jack, you worried about the beefcake here.
DeAndre Hopkins says he will retire when he's not a 1,000-yard receiver. Jim, how soon is that going to be?
Next year. He got to find a team first.
Yeah, just got to play to get 1,000 yards. So you better.
Yes. So I don't know if that counts or not, but that is also a good point. Keith, your opinion, even though you were late to supper, your opinion on Wembanyama. What is your opinion? Just seeing him in his first appearance. Listen, Jim thinks he's going to be a good player. Jack thinks he's a generational player. What do you think?
I have to wait before I call him a generational player. Let me see him play against real games, and probably not for a year or 2, and then I'll give you my judgment. Right now, I think he'll be a very good player. And the rest, if he becomes generational, I mean, you got to show me something on the court before I say you're a generational player or going to be.
He'll be another Hakeem Olajuwon, put it that way. There's Olajuwon a generational player?
He will never. No, he won't be.
There is not. It's not even close. Hakeem was the dream.
And he was a great player coming in, but I wouldn't have called him a generational player as he got there, too. He still have to earn it on the court in the NBA, right? Kobe Bryant, when he first came in, he didn't play like a generational player his first year, too.
No, that's true.
And he was a young kid, like Wemby here.
That's true. Scoot Henderson, Amen Thompson all look good, but they both got hurt.
Yeah.
So I think they'll be out like one's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. I think that's Amen there. That's a great first name too. Scoot and Amen, 2 great nicknames that I would have a lot of fun with if I was one of the players. Keith, you got a rookie, a receiver who used to play for LSU. Let me see if I get his name right. Keyshawn Bate.
Close enough. I would say Bate, something like that. It's a tough name to pronounce. I get it. But your question about him is?
He's been injured, but in his freshman year at LSU, he had 45 catches, 735 yards, 5 TDs. He's determined to make the team. What do you think? What do you think about this kid?
I like the kid. He's got a lot of upside. I mean, if he performs anywhere close to where he was in his freshman year at LSU, and again, this is a 6th or 7th round pick, I think, maybe 5th round pick. But they picked a couple wide receivers down there that they think have high upside. If they don't make the team, it's not a big loss. But if they do make it, they need contributors there. And I like the kid's chances. I really do.
Okay.
If, again, his attitude might have been a problem with him as well in college. And, sometimes that gets straightened out and sometimes it doesn't. So that may play a big part in his development here in training camp.
Okay. NFL, some more NFL news. A lot of people think the Rams are going to dismantle. There's talk Steelers might get a shot at Aaron Donald. They're talking about Stafford might be getting traded or left, and they're going to go in full rebuild mode. This is where we got that big question. Jack thinks all this stuff, when you sign these players, if you win a Super Bowl, it was worth it. But to me, after you win that Super Bowl, you're going to have years of where you're going to have to rebuild this team. So is it really worth it? So what do you think, Jim? You played the NFL. Is it worth it to do that?
Well, here's the problem. You run into that sometimes. Yes, you win the Super Bowl, but you're not, just like you said, you're not consistent for another 3 or 4 years. You look at what happened to the Rams. Won't happen to Philadelphia because they did it the right way. But the Rams did it the wrong way. They just went and tried to win the Super Bowl, and they did. But the problem is they paid a terrible price for doing that. So I agree with you that way is probably not the best way to do it. But they're also in a market where that is tough. And being in Los Angeles, you got the Chargers, you got the Lakers, you got the Clippers, you got hockey teams, you got 2 of everything. So it's a difficult market. So they had to make that splash, and they paid a price for it.
They had no choice but to make the splash because they were on the cusp of winning it for a number of years. Being in the playoffs, having gone to a Super Bowl a couple of years before that, they had to make a big move to, go over the top. We hear about that all the time. I mean, we hear, Keith, for example, mentioned, the Yankees haven't been to the series since 2009. Had the Yankees won it one year, let's say hypothetically in the year 2017, when they very well may have had the best team, we wouldn't be hearing, the Yankees haven't won it in so long. I think if you can win a championship, you win it. And then if you have to go through a decade of, a rebirth during that decade.
I don't know. Rick makes a good point here. And, he's
there you go. Look at what Rick is saying, just for that one Super Bowl.
Yeah, but the problem is you pay a price. You pay a price when you do things like that. You pay a horrible. Would you rather win one Super Bowl and then 10 years of being awful?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think I used to say I'd rather be competitive for the 10 years. I used to always say that. Now I'm thinking that one Super Bowl. Look, the Jets won Super Bowl number 3. Imagine they didn't win that Super Bowl. And they had no Super Bowls at all to their credit. My answer would then be the same as Rick's. What I'd give for just one Super Bowl victory for the franchise, that would be worth a lot of down years.
Well, I hate to, and Rick is my buddy now and everything, but the problem is as long as Kirk Cousins there, they play the Super Bowl and late in the afternoon, and Kirk Cousins is not very good at night. As soon as that sun goes down, Kirk Cousins struggles.
No.
Kirk Cousins turns into a werewolf. He does.
Yep.
All right. Well, Keith, I know Robert.
Guys,
here,
I'm
we
having-
got to let you go.
All right, Keith.
Hey, Keith.
Talk to you.
Take
Take
care,
care, buddy.
Keith.
So,
Bye. Robert.
so folks,
Hey, Jim.
Robert
Jack,
Butler from
Jack.
Sports Skope as we say goodbye to Keith Engle from TGI Sports. Robert, how you doing today, buddy?
Pretty good.
All right. Okay.
Not
so
too bad.
not too bad. All right, Robert. You know, we've talked about it earlier, but I want to get your take on Wembanyama, his first
Yeah.
game. Your thoughts on that, and throw in a little bit of Britney Spears there, and you can hit me for the, you know, you can. She's not that innocent, and you hit her one more time. What do you got?
Well, yeah, that's true. You know, on the Britney Spears thing, I think that her ego was bruised more than the security putting his arm up and her knocking her glasses off. I saw the video a couple of times. She did run up. She ran up like a fan. She was at her peak, guys, about 20 plus years ago. He's 19 years old. He wasn't even born when she was at her pinnacle. So she's not as famous as a Taylor Swift is today to these kids of his generation. Hopefully they'll squash it and everything will be fine.
Yeah, they said they're not pressing charges, right?
There's no charges. Yeah, I've read that on TMZ. So as far as Wembanyama, guys, trending, and of course, you know, Twitter has a tendency to be really salty. Bust was trending Friday night on Twitter about Wembanyama, and I looked up LeBron's stats. It's very similar. LeBron James. Jim, I know you're a big Victor Wembanyama fan. I'm trying to help you out here in sarcasm. Hold on, guys. I got them right here. I didn't know. This is LeBron. Summer League, first one Summer League game, 14 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. Victor Wembanyama, 9 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 5 blocks. Jerry West says he reminds him of a bigger version of Bill Russell. So,
Oh, come on.
oh man, you are hey! Oh my,
I'm not hating.
Jim is biased.
Very good.
Jim is biased against the French league. That's what it comes down to.
How many French
yeah,
players?
he does
have
not
really
like French
excelled?
guys.
No, I'm just saying. How many French players have excelled in the NBA? That you
How
know?
can who say that again? Yeah, I
How
can't hear
many
you.
French players have excelled in the NBA?
I mean,
Tony
Tony
Parker's
Parker's got 4 or 5
Yeah,
rings.
but he's not really French. Come on, he wasn't born and raised in France. You know, he played. in
Yeah,
a
but
French
he
league.
has a French jersey on. You've got the guy Gobert is a French
He
born
is
player.
okay. He's not. I mean, come on. Don't put Gobert in there.
You know, and Jim was right. One of the problems.
There's a first
was-
time for everything, Jim.
Wow.
Like you cannot put that on
Wow.
the resume. Great basketball.
Wow.
Oh, I thought I said Jim was right, and you said there's a first time for everything. I thought that's what you meant, Jim being right for the first time.
Oh
But anyway,
no. Jim's right about a lot of stuff.
anyway, Robert, Jim pointed out that he didn't even play for the best, you know, in the best of the best French league while he was over there. So he is really green. He said he didn't know what he was doing, that's a really
And he
good look.
admitted it. He said
Yeah,
it's
that's
a learning
look.
curve.
Yeah,
I know
he
what I'm doing
guys.
out
On
there.
top of all that, I left the headline out. Greg Popovich was rumored to sign for a 3-year extension. Now it's 5 because
$80 million.
Yeah,
he sees Wembanyama's talent, guys.
well,
I
I,
think he's
He's
very
giving him
good.
something to live. He's like Gus D'Amato, Jack. And it's like he's found young Mike Tyson again.
Um, I'm glad you're putting these guys in their place, Rob. Keep it going.
Wembanyama is a lot of hype right now. I think he'll be a good player. I don't even think he's going to be very good. I think he's going to be a good player. He'll do like 19 points, 10 assists, 5 blocks. I mean, he's going to be a very good player, but I don't think he's going to be
You know why I think he's going to be a very good player? Because he has unique skills. He can shoot from the perimeter.
Yeah.
He shoots like Kevin Garnett from there. I mean, not Kevin Garnett. Durant. And I mean, that's going to be hard. How do you defend that?
He's got ball handling skills. He got to the rim. I mean,
They showed
very skilled guy.
They showed you how you guard that in that summer league game, didn't they? You keep slapping at the ball. So I mean,
one turnover. Oh, y'all counting turn? Oh God.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he's going to be LeBron or Jordan, but y'all act like he's mediocre. Wiggins.
No, I think he's going to be very good.
But listen,
I think he's championship built around guy.
I think the problem is that we expect this guy to come in like we did on a lot of rookies that they're going to come in and they're going to be the greatest of all time. And that's just not the case most.
He's 19.
He's 18. Well, you should have waited a couple more years. I don't know.
I'm with you, Mac. I'm with the guys on that stuff.
That's all. I mean, listen.
They see the height, and they see he does have some athleticism. But did you see what Brandon Miller did to him?
Brandon Miller got past him, and he stripped him, and LeBron played at Akron, Ohio high school. They weren't even professionals, Jim.
I know.
I mean, and he was a thin guy too. Look at that 2003 tape of LeBron.
Rob, that's what guys like Mac and Jim don't understand. Wembanyama is a marked man. Every time he's on the court, everyone is trying to look good against him. They're trying to do things against him. Wembanyama is just working on his own game, trying to improve. He's not going after anyone else per se, but everyone else is going after Wembanyama.
Because of the hype,
Here's one thing about Wembanyama, Jack, and remember this. They're going to have to turn the air conditioner to low, because if they turn it to high, he's going to get blown away. He's so skinny.
You want him to be big, like Greg Oden. Have foot problems.
I was doing this, Robert. I was talking about Chet Holmgren earlier.
Oh, Chet, yeah.
Do you see the difference between him this year and last year? He looks like an NBA player now.
Yeah, I said 3 years playoff potential, 3 years to be a decent playoff seed, 5 to 7 years before you want to start building championships around him.
Yeah.
Not this year.
Both David Robinson and Tim Duncan were bigger players as far as post play. So that's
totally different era.
I think he's going to be very good. Because he does have some unique skills.
Well, Jim is starting to backpedal now. First,
no.
We got it on tape.
Jim is playing both ends, basically.
Jim is playing both ends right now.
I didn't say it's going to be a bust. I just didn't think it's going to take Jack even said it's going to take 3 to 4 years for this kid to really be a very good player. Because
no, I didn't say very good player. He'll be a very good player next year. 3-4 years to be the best player in the game.
He won't be the best player in the game, Jack.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that.
Well, everybody.
He'll be on the level of a Jokic, in a few years, something like that.
I think that's very easy I'd agree with that. Yes.
Wow.
Listen,
Jokic
Jack
can walk the floor like Joker, guys.
Listen, Jack was right. Listen, one thing Jack was right on. He is a marked man. Even Britney Spears wants to get a selfie with him. So that is true.
She's trying to resonate her. She probably rehearsed the whole thing and exaggerated.
One thing about that's wrong is she said she touched his shoulder. Britney Spears is like 5'4". He's 7'5". She can't.
She can't jump that high. I have to rewind it like the Zabruta film.
That's like Jack trying to touch my shoulder. Jack's 5'4".
No. I want to point something out about Wembanyama, guys. He doesn't have an entourage like these other young players.
Yeah.
Notice he just had his security, and it's going to be easy for San Antonio to work with him. He's a good kid. He's not going to have a lot of outside influences hanging around him, and that's really going to help his development.
Yeah, he's a good kid. I'll agree with that.
The former players are helping him already.
Yeah.
Robert, Simone Biles
Yeah.
Returns to gymnastics, first time since the 2020 Olympics, back for the U.S. Classic August 5th. I think she walked away from the Olympics after that bad. I think when she did that, the flip in the air over the horse kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, she's only 26 years old, guys. She got married last year, former Houston Texan.
Yeah.
She was part of that doctor. She had some of the drama with Larry Nasser. She had all that going on. She said she lost her concentration. She wanted to retire in 2020 within the pandemic. So it sounds like she was burnt out. These kids, they start really young doing that. I think she's caught her second win. She's settled down and she wants to compete again. I thought she was older than 26. That tells you how long she's been in this craft,
Rob, but 26 is not young for a gymnast. You're getting on in years when you're 26 and you're a gymnast.
But she's not very heavy. I mean, it's not like she's, I've seen guys 26 do cartwheels and backflips in the NFL with full gear on. Tyreek Hill can. That should be all right.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill, I heard, might be trying out for the men's gymnastics, but Robert,
he probably could do it. He's a really good athlete, man.
Yeah, she still looks like she's in good shape. She's a little bitty thing. I didn't know how small. They're very small anyway to move around.
Oh yeah,
and very
her next to Wembanyama.
So do you think she'll be on the Olympic team, Robert? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think she will. I mean, for anything, just to get the hype for it, it'd be patriotic. Not unless she's horrible. I don't think she'll be horrible. I don't see any reason, not unless there's a nagging injury that we don't know about.
Would it be fair to the other people that are out there right now, the other young girls that are competing, because of maybe her name, that she gets one of their spots?
Well, as long as they were biological women growing up. I mean, this ain't this like, sure, it's not a swimming thing.
Matt, she's got to earn her place in the Olympics.
Of course.
Trials and all that.
She understands
and
that.
If she's been off all this time and she hasn't been seriously training and the other girls have, it's going to be very difficult for her.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
She may have been working behind the scenes. You never know.
Real quick, Robert, I had a question for you.
Yeah.
Devin Allen of the Philadelphia Eagles said he is faster than Tyreek Hill. If you read that. Devin Allen.
Oh, I don't even know who that is.
He was a hurdler who
the hurdler, yeah. Good chance.
Went to the Eagles. And I think he's competing for a place in the Olympics.
Well, for the World Championships, I'm not sure what happened yesterday.
Yeah,
that's next month. World Championships is the equivalent of the Olympics in track and field, but the public only knows about the Olympics because of the tradition. He's run under 13 seconds for the 110-meter hurdles. I mean, he is lightning, quick over there. But running straight and hurdling, a bit of a different thing. He was on the Eagle practice squad last year. Now, if he makes the team for the World Championships, and I think his event might even be today, I'm not sure, a big decision is going to have to be made because the World Championships are next month, and the Eagles might not tolerate him not being in camp. Because you're talking about a practice team player with the potential, as a receiver to do something really good. So he has a career decision to make. Report to the Eagles camp and bypass the World Championships or risk getting cut.
He can make quite a bit of money in track.
Yeah, Plus, just settle it on the field, gas up Tyreek to do it, and maybe turn it into like a pay-per-view. Listen, I remember LaShawn McCoy said he was faster at 23. He was 23. Vic had already got out of prison. He was playing with the Eagles, and he kept saying, "I can outrun Michael. Michael." Vic was like 30. He said, "Okay, well, let's race." Vic beat him.
Yeah. Well,
I guess it tells you how fast Vic was.
Tyreek Hill ran track in college, so he does have a background in that.
Well, the reason why
DK Metcalf ran the 100 meters against a field of track guys. Okay, he tested himself and he came in last. I mean, he ran really quick, but you're talking about world-class sprinters. Yeah. They have a little bit of an edge.
Well, the reason why this kid said that was because supposedly he beat him in a race in high school. So that's why he's saying he's faster.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
So but that's high school, right? So we'll see.
Right.
Hatfields and the McCoys are happening modern day here, Robert. We have MJ's son dating Pippen's daughter, and MJ isn't too happy about it.
Well, no,
it's
his ex, his son and Scotty's ex-wife.
Oh, well, that's even more juicy. Yeah, okay. So
she turned 49 yesterday. There's some stuff on TMZ. Go figure. Jordan publicly says, Michael says, I do not approve of this relationship. Marcus, his son, says privately, Dad says it's all good. So Scottie Pippen was seen in Malibu on the other coast, guys, with the woman showing her breast outside of a window to get back at his ex-wife. So that's the latest on that. It's all on TMZ. Go figure.
You like TMZ, don't you, Robert?
Man, that TMZ's off the hook, man. The good and the bad and the ugly is on TMZ.
So that's your daily
as the world turns.
Right, the daily soap opera provided by This Week in Sports.
Exactly.
Don Schumer is now coaching. Former Giants head coach is now coaching with Deion Sanders at Colorado. Yeah. So I guess he's going to be the offensive coordinator, Robert.
Analyst.
Analyst.
Yeah, I think is this a recruiting thing, Jim? You said this about Mike Zimmer.
Yeah.
He's not technically got a real position.
To say, hey, we got a former NFL coach, and he's one of our analysts. He can help you get to the NFL. That's what they're telling him. I'm guarantee you that's what they're using as a recruiting tool.
Because one of those guys are.
He's not going to show up on game day. When he shows up, is basically when it's recruiting, when they're recruiting, and he's going to shake hands and tell them about, hey, I can help you get to that next level. Well, you're not coaching.
So he's not going to be any part of the coaching staff at all.
No.
He's not going to be in the field. All right. Well.
No. It's kind of what happened with Brian Billick at Arizona State. They just show up whenever. They just utilize it as a recruiting tool.
Interesting. Very interesting.
And they had Marvin Lewis the same way. He was doing the same thing.
Yeah, I got a theory. I think, guys, that Deion is positioning himself to be one. I mean, all these transfers, all this stuff going around. His son's going to be a junior. I think he's really wanting to say, let's go privately. He's thinking 8-9 wins. Maybe the Florida job comes open because Billy Napier's kind of subpar in the SEC, and he jumps or FSU even better. But
that's what he wants because he's an
he went to FSU
State grad. So I agree with you. He might be.
I think he's setting up to be one and done there. That's my prediction.
Wow.
But
I
can't
can't
win
wait.
that many games with that roster.
Well, he's turned it all over though, Jim.
Yeah, but still, you got UCLA and USC are going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Oregon's going to be good. So he's, even at the best, he's the 4th. Utah, so he's really the 15.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens. Be interesting. In baseball, the Cincinnati Reds youth movement turns the season around. And Robert, I bring this up because there's a lot of teams out there, the Yankees, the Mets, and some others, that really put emphasis on the old veterans, the old stars.
Yeah.
And you got a lot of young teams like the Reds that are just going all youth. The kid, Jack knows the name better than me, Dela Cruz
or something.
Thank you. He stole 3 bases, including home plate yesterday.
I love that.
It's exciting. I mean, it's just exciting. And the Reds right now are looking like they're a playoff team, Robert.
Well, they're 10 games above 500. They're 2 games up in the Central. Average, they've got 5 players 26 or younger. I remember Don King saying this years ago in one of his movies, a movie made about Don King called Only in America. And he said there's something about young and hungry. He said, I'm going to go after young and hungry. Then he started going after I know he's kind of a bad example, but Mike Tyson, just guys that are just really, do you really want a lot? And of course, Votto's on that team. You do have one vet, but there's something about that. The Devil Rays aren't that much older if you average per player. The Braves aren't really old. I mean, they're fairly young as well. They got the best record in baseball. So I like that young and hungry, working the farm system, doing it right way, trying to compete with these, the Dodgers, the Yankees, massive payrolls.
Don, and I spoke to Don King a couple of days ago, Rob. I would have gotten a quote on that had I known you were going to bring him up out of nowhere.
Who's that?
Don King. I spoke to him a couple of days ago. A story I'm doing on a guy who was in that movie, Don Elbaum, who accused King of being a crook.
90 years old, right?
Yeah, 91, 92. Yeah.
He is a crook, Jack.
It'd be great for this
he hustles. You know, I don't want to go that far, but whatever. You know,
I'm impressed, Jack, with all these analogies about boxing with Robert this morning. I think that's his second one right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Don King is what's right. Well, I was just thinking about Gus D'Amato. You know, Greg Popovich is so angry here lately. The last time we talked about the Spurs is when Kawhi Leonard wanted to leave the organization back in 2018. They've been in Siberia.
That is a good point, Robert.
Do you think, so let me ask you this, Rob. Obviously, the San Antonio Spurs organization reveres Coach Pop. They're giving him this 5-year extension. He could be with the team basically the rest of his life for the most part. Do you think the Patriots should be treating Bill Belichick the same way, basically giving him a golden ticket? You can stay here as coach or have a big part in this organization for as long as you want.
I would. I mean, but I understand that, you know, some things just kind of run their course. Bill Walsh said, I didn't stay anywhere over, Bill Walsh for the 49ers, over 10 years, whether it be, he said, I would recommend it for management or coaching in professional sports. People start to tune you out after that. Of course, you've got your Greg Popovich's, your Bill Belichick's.
Pat Riley.
Andy Reid's been there for a while now, but
Pat Riley, right?
Who?
Pat Riley at the Miami Heat.
Did he say
he didn't get his fame with the Heat, Jim? He got his fame, Riley, mostly with the Lakers.
Yeah, but he's won championships with the Heat, being the GM.
Yeah.
Coach and GM, yeah.
So, Robert, we got Trout hurt again. You know, we talked again these players that are high priced, they get hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Judge, Trout, a couple of the pitchers, DeGrom. I mean, these guys are great when they're healthy, but they get hurt, they get injured a lot. So with Trout being injured, is that it for the Angels for the year?
Well, their chances of making the playoffs are 8.4% chance now. His WAR, wins above replacement, is 2.9 games. That could be the difference in getting a wild card and not getting in a wild card. The bigger question is, does this open up Ohtani to look at other teams? And does the Angels think, okay, with Ohtani being in a contract year, is this going to be a normal year thing? Trout was on the injured list 3 times last year.
Yeah.
You got to wonder, does this open it up for the Mets guys? $700 million for Ohtani. Does the Angels just trade him in the end of the month and get 7 or 8 first-round picks, players, farm players? I mean, it could, but who wants to trade him and be compared to the Babe Ruth trade? So that's probably the bigger question.
Well, I don't think Ohtani wants to come to New York. I don't know. I'm not sure if he has a no trade clause or not. I imagine he does, but he wants to stay on the West Coast, Robert. He wants to play, Dodgers, Giants, those teams. So I don't think he's coming to New York. A lot of people think that he might. I don't think so. I think that's where he's most comfortable.
For maybe 50 more million, maybe 100. I mean,
the Mets would make the most sense because Steve Cohen would outbid anyone else in the offseason. And you give him a taste in New York playing for the Mets. And if he really enjoys playing for the Mets, plus he's going to get a better offer from the Mets than anyone else, this is their big chance to go after Ohtani. But it's risky.
Yeah, but
you can't give up too much for what might basically be a rental.
Yeah, but also you got to look at the Mets. Look at their salary right now. I mean,
Yeah.
that's crazy. And they're not very good. So,
He's practically double net worth of any other owner in the league. And
Yeah, Steve Cohn. Yeah, the Met owner.
$15.9 billion. I mean, would you invest $750 to $800 million? You had to get some kind of insurance on that.
Exactly.
So, but he's 29. I mean, God, he could probably play another 6 years like this.
And guys, Scherzer and Verlander in a year would be coming off the books anyway.
Yes.
Verlander signed a 2-year
that's
deal.
really
Next
good
year
stuff.
is a second year, and Scherzer at most would have next year on his deal with the Mets.
Mm-hmm.
And so here we are talking about, again, high-priced
Yes.
players are not winning when the youth is. So here we go around and around
It's
again.
great for sports talk, though, man.
And listen, it's great for marketing. It's great for star power. But is it going to win you a World Series?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. Robert, do you have anything else in big stories before you go?
Well, this is food for thought, guys. Brian Cashman has been with the Yankees 25 years. You look at a guy like Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge, basically the same player. Look at their pitching. They get beat 13-4 the other night.
Yes.
Look at their pitching. They're 10th in saves. They just don't have the concentration on middle relief and starting pitching like they did during those late 90s and early 2000 runs. You think about Rivera. You think about David Wells, Pettit, Roger Clemens. Has he run his course as the general manager of the Yankees, considering the resources and the unlimited amount of money he can spend? It's food for thought. It's just food for thought.
I just want to say, no, Rob, I have to disagree. In the beginning of the season, a lot of people thought the Yankees had the best starting staff in all of baseball, but they've had injuries. I agree there's certain positions like they could have had a little more depth in the outfield.
Yes.
And a couple of other little moves could have been made. But what we were talking about before, one championship or just being in contention all the years, and the Yankees have been in the mix every year. They haven't had a losing season since, 1992 or something like that?
Yes.
So, and meanwhile, we're condemning them because they're not winning championships. I mean, we can't have it both ways. Put down the Rams for winning a championship and not being competitive now, and then we attack the Yankees for something just the opposite.
Do you put that $30 million into relief pitching, or are you trying to sell tickets with Giancarlo Stanton in the summer, getting aside Aaron Judge?
I admit with Stanton, it wasn't a good signing per se, but keep in mind, they got him for virtually nothing. I shouldn't say it. They gave up a second baseman. His name escapes me. He was a good player at the time, though. But he was coming off a 59-homer season with Miami. He was a genuine megastar when the Yankees got him. And to combine him with Aaron Judge, to Broadway each night, sing a Yankee game. That's how exciting it was at the time.
They want to sell tickets. Chicks dig the long ball. That was the big New York.
Yeah.
Now, that you see that on signs up there, Jim. I used to live up there.
Oh.
And I'm like, where's the pitching? Where's the beef?
The Bills, wait a second. Didn't the Buffalo Bills make that mistake? They got Jeffcoat to put him next to Bruce Smith, and Jim wasn't lighting it up at Buffalo either.
Oh, man. As I recall, we never
Oh,
lost.
man. You're a marked man today, Jim.
We never lost to the Jets. That's all I got.
That's true. And you probably won't again.
Hey, everybody beats the Jets. So.
We're not worthy, Jim. We're not worthy, man. We
Wait
got to
till
start
this
putting you
year,
back
though,
on the
Jim.
pedestal. You're the Wembanyama of the program.
This year they've got Hulk Hogan as quarterback, so you have no chance.
Oh, man. You hadn't heard that one, Robert.
Hulkamania.
There you go. Hey, Robert, thank you for coming in as you always do on every Sunday. Robert Butler with TGI Sports with the biggest stories, whether it's sports related or it's Britney Spears. He's got them out. So
I love the TMZ stuff. I know.
All right.
Have a good one, guys.
Take care, buddy.
Oh, my goodness.
So there you go, folks. Again, Robert Butler, Keith Engle, Philly sports guy, should be in later. He's been very busy with all the stuff he eats. That guy never stops. So we'll see if he makes it in or not. But we will have our special guest on, Kermit Washington, former NBA player, will be visiting us. And like I said, should be a great interview. Right now, we're going to take our promotional break where you get to check out some of the greatest shows on air here on Northeast Streaming Sports.
He was a giant, and he was a cowboy. Now these two former rivals have joined forces to bring you the most insightful, perceptive, and controversial sports talk podcast in America. Former Dallas Cowboys defensive end Jim Jeffcoat locks horns with former New York Giants wide receiver Byron Williams. And now, here's Byron Williams and Jim Jeffcoat. It just might be the greatest sports franchise in the history of sports. A place where legends are made, and there's always something to talk about. Get ready to immerse yourself in pinstripes. Start spreading the news, hosted by Paul Semendinger and E.J. Fagan, a couple of doctors with a prescription for Yankee fever. And now, here's Dr. Paul Semendinger and Dr. E.J. Fagan. Get ready to start spreading the news. If you like the sweet science, get ready to talk boxing on the Gloved Fist podcast with top boxing writers Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch. Frank, a former amateur boxer out of Philadelphia, writes for NY Fights and can be seen on the Boxing Channel. Jack, an amateur boxer who competed in the New York Golden Gloves, was a 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association. And now, here's Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch.
See right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, guess any.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the This Week in Sports with Mac, Jack, and Jim Jeffcoat. Here's Jack right now as he's settling into his captain's chair. So, guys, we've covered a lot of information today. We still got a lot more to go. We're going to start off. I mean, I love that commercial where I say, I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, and I want to tell him how much I hate him. So we're going to lead right into a Dallas news off of that, Jack and Jim. Do they have the best cornerback duo in the league, Jim, with Gilmore and Diggs? I mean, there's a few good ones out there. The Eagles got a good cornerback duo. I think the Dolphins have a pretty good duo. But are the Cowboys the best?
I would say no at this point until they prove it. I mean, you can put on paper they look good, but obviously they have to prove it. So I would say no. And, like you said, Miami has a good DBs. Philadelphia, San Francisco's corners play pretty well too. So I would say no.
If Gilmore's in top form, wouldn't the answer be yes? I know he's been hurt. He hasn't been playing the last couple of years.
Age is getting to him too, Jack. So,
well, Diggs is a big play guy, but he also gets burned.
Yes, that's what
he does go for the interceptions.
Good point there.
Yeah,
and that's always what scares you about Diggs.
So anyway, I know Bradbury. I forget the name of the other cornerback. What is Slay? I think it's Darius Slay on the Eagles. Yeah, good duo over there. Dallas signs USFL kicker Brandon Aubrey.
This is a good one. He's a local kid. He went to Plano Senior High. He was 15 of 14. 14 of 15 in field goals in the USFL. And he was interesting. He went to Notre Dame. He didn't play football. He was a soccer player.
Right.
And he decided he wanted to try out for football and has done well.
All right, cool. I have now figured out why Jim thinks the Cowboys are going to the Super Bowl. It's that Dallas Wire. I've looked at Dallas Wire, and Dallas Wire loves the Cowboys, of course. They actually have Tony Pollard rated 7th in the league as running back. He's ahead of Jonathan Taylor, Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, Kamara. They're even calling Saquon Barkley the most overrated running back in the league, according to Dallas Wire. So now I know where you got all your information from, Jim.
I get my information from TMZ.
Okay, all right. So what do you think? Do you think Tony Pollard is the 7th best running back in the league, Jim?
Who are the 6 in front of him, though?
Well, I just gave you. Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah, I thought Jonathan Taylor. Who else? Aaron Jones.
Austin Eckler for the San Diego Chargers.
Yes, very good.
Kamara
Barkley.
Kamara.
Yeah. I would think he would be in the top 10, top 7. Yeah, there's no argument on that.
So
who would you put in front of him?
You mean besides the ones that I just said?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Eagles. Well, Eagles don't have a primary running back anymore.
Yes.
I don't know.
Would you put Samuels from Washington in front of him? No.
No,
Think
but
about that.
That's the conference. They're saying the whole league, Jim. That includes the AFC.
But I'm just saying, who would you put in front of him if that's the top 6?
Well, I wasn't ready for that. Answer. So I got to go back and look at it. So, okay, maybe, but if he's not injured, let's say if he's not injured, he might be
He's a top 7 running back.
What are your thoughts?
It depends how the running backs have been utilized. I mean, I hate to give an answer.
You definitely wouldn't put Bryce Hall in front of him.
Bryce Hall got hurt last year. He would have been rookie of the year. I mean, he was trending towards that. And my fear is with the Jets, they're expecting Bryce Hall to carry too big of a load in the running game because Aaron Rodgers isn't a running quarterback. I mean, he can run to escape a little bit, but he's not really going to look to take off like the other, running quarterbacks would. So that's my concern. The Jets really, should have addressed the running back position a little more in the off season. But Dalvin Cook, there's talk how much he would help.
Who is Dalvin Cook going to play for?
Well, who's he going to play for? There's a school of thought the Jets should get him just to keep him away from Miami. But we'll see what happens.
Well, Dalvin Cook just turned down the offer sheet from Miami. So right now in play.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. Right now in play, I guess would be Buffalo, the Jets, and the Patriots are in play. He wants to go to AFC East. I don't know why he wants to go to AFC East, but he does.
Well, he's from Miami, correct?
Well, there you go. So he
plays at Buffalo.
Okay. Well, so Buffalo has it in. The Jets, New York Jets, are not that far from there, or neither the Patriots. So that's where he wants to go. I think Dalvin Cook will be an outstanding addition to any one of those three.
I do too. I think Dalvin Cook is a quality running back in there.
Well, I don't understand, guys. They're waiting. Now we're in July already. The season begins in a couple of months. I mean, how's their value going to go up waiting more? Is the team going to become so desperate? And how much space are they going to have under the cap? For the most part, the best offers out there now, as far as I can see.
Let me ask you this. Do you think this is the theory? They're getting all their draft picks signed. They're going to know where they're at financially, and then they can make a move for a guy like Dalvin Cook. Because they haven't
done that already. Haven't they basically settled with everyone for the most part?
I'm not sure. And you always got to put in their injuries too.
The Jets are still waiting to sign that big defensive tackle.
Quentin Williams. But the Jets are going to get that done, and they have it factored in. They're probably in the ballpark of what they're going to offer him right now. It's not going to be that much more going forward.
I agree. I'd agree with that, Jim. So Dalvin Cook, he's still out there. So is the the Las Vegas Raider running back. He still hasn't been signed yet.
I think they're franchising Josh Jacobs, right?
They already did, but he didn't sign his franchise.
Right. So we'll see what happens with that. So he's still out there right now. Jets some more. Of course, Jack already mentioned the half nude picture of Aaron Rodgers from the waist up, jacked.
Ah,
So that's
now Jack's got a bromance.
Yeah, I think that picks the whole team up.
yes.
You know me, and Jim could vouch for this more than you and I, Mac. The players talk. They talk amongst themselves. And believe me, some of the guys on the defensive unit, they're saying, did you see Aaron? He's looking diesel. They're saying he's looking diesel. That's what they're saying, some of the defensive players. Like they're in awe, you know?
Yeah, they're in awe of the old guy. All right. Well,
Aaron's doing 500 push-ups a day, 1,000 crunches. There's talk. I mean, there's talk there.
I don't think players think that way, Jack.
They don't talk that way at the locker room, that Aaron's looking diesel.
No.
Well, you know, I gave it to Jim a little bit. Let me give it to Jack too. All right. Now I know why Jack thinks the Jets are going to the Super Bowl, right? And I guess it's let me see where I got this from. It's NewYork.com or whatever, NewYorkJets.com. The prediction by them for the Jets is the floor at 9 wins, and the ceiling is 14 wins.
Wow.
So Jack, can the Jets go 14-2 this year?
14-3, it would be 17-game schedule.
17 weeks, 14 games. Yeah.
Not quite. The AFC East is so tough. You mean they would have? I mean, they could beat New England twice. I could see that happening. Are they going to beat Buffalo twice? Are they going to beat Miami twice? I mean, you can't see them going within their division more than, like, say, 4-2 with those 3 teams. Logically speaking, and it's going to be hard. There's so much parity in the NFL. I mean, the Eagles had such a great year last year, but when all was said and done, they were 14-3. I mean, I could see the Jets falling in the 11-6 range. You know, somewhere around there.
Whoa!
Wait, Jim. Before you get him, isn't there only 16 games in 17 weeks, Jack? You keep giving everybody 17.
They have 7. No, they play 17 games.
Oh, do they? All right. I thought they had 1 week was a bye.
Yeah, it's been that way. Yeah.
But I have 17 games.
Yeah, and they get their bye in there. So,
all right.
No,
it's hard. What's the worst case? What's expected of the Jets that's going to be minimally accepted? Let's say they go 10-7 and lose in the first round of the playoffs. I don't think Jet fans are going to get that upset as long as they're trending towards next year. If Rodgers has a fairly good year and they just have to tighten up a little more, then maybe next year, you know, it's going to be the thought. But I think they could take a serious run at the Super Bowl next year. But the team that I would look out for in the AFC, and I'm talking a little early, a couple of months in advance, would be the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they're the Buffalo Bills of last year. This is it for them. They're ready to make an all-out bid to get to win the Super Bowl. They were there 2 years ago. Had they beat the Chiefs last year and not gotten edged out, maybe they would have won the Super Bowl, last year, but they certainly would have been back again. I think their window starts closing if the Bengals don't win it this year, but I think Dan with a very serious chance.
Jack,
their team is primed.
Even with Aaron Rodgers, doesn't the Jets have offensive line issues?
Nah, every team has offensive line issues. I mean, they got some guys who could play like Elijah Vera-Tucker, Becton, McGovern. They got guys who could protect Rodgers. I mean, they have to. The owner, Woody Johnson, I don't know whether you saw the clips. He would talk to every offensive lineman and explain the quarterback they got. Emphasize he's got to get protected. You know full well, Jim, when a guy, you didn't play that position, the offensive line, but when a guy's career's on the line and it's desperation, and you have the type of quarterback who can't run, I think they take it up a little level. I think you block a little differently and a little more intensely and bear down a little more for Aaron Rodgers than you would for Lamar Jackson or Josh Taylor, because those running quarterbacks can bail out an offensive lineman every once in a while. Aaron Rodgers is never going to bail out an offensive lineman unless, he has a quick release, gets rid of the ball. I think it's a little bit of a different mindset. Correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't play the game, so I don't know. But I think that has a lot to do with it.
It would be nice to say that, Jack, but sometimes it's physical ability. And the Jets have struggled on the offensive line. They did struggle last year on the offensive line because of injuries. And
they have Zach Wilson. There's less motivation to block Zach Wilson than Aaron Rodgers. The motivation comes into it.
Well, if that's true, you talk about at Denver with Wilson up there. They would have had more motivation to block for him, correct?
Russell Wilson, number one, can run better than Aaron Rodgers. You know, he likes to move around. Russell Wilson got hit more than any quarterback when he was with Seattle. And thirdly, you got the feeling, maybe it was just perception, he wasn't the most popular guy, Russell Wilson. You know, if you really like a quarterback a lot, I think you just give the extra 5% for him. I just get that feeling. And again, I've never been in the locker room. I didn't play the game.
Because you're fighting for your job, too. And regardless if you like him or dislike him.
Yeah. I agree. You're there to play football. You're not there to you know, I don't think
kumbaya.
I don't think it comes in equation who's back there. I mean, I think you would think your chances of winning are better with Aaron Rodgers than Matt Wilson, but I don't think you give any more or less.
You better be.
We're living in an age where we have running quarterbacks, so I think it's kind of different. I think, you know, with Aaron Rodgers quarterbacking, you got to hold off the defensive line for the whole duration he has the ball. With the running quarterbacks, they roll out, they move, they buy it just
Aaron
a
Rodgers
little
is
more
pretty
time.
athletic.
He is, but he's not a running quarterback.
Not only that, we always say the age of running quarterbacks. I mean, the quarterbacks have been running for a while. Fran Tarkenton, Bobby Douglas, Joe Kapp,
like that.
Roger Staubach. I mean, we forget, and Jack, you should. We forget how athletic quarterbacks have been throughout.
Matt.
I mean, Tom Brady isn't running. You know, come on. I mean, I get it. Yeah, they ain't gonna run maybe like Jackson does or Fields does. But let me tell you, they had running quarterbacks way back when too.
They did.
Mac, in the Super Bowl early in the game, the Eagles called a couple of running plays for Jalen Hurts, designed plays.
Yeah.
That never happened when Jim played. I'm sure Troy Aikman early in the game like that.
He is right about that. It was very
Troy.
Cunningham had running plays.
I was just gonna say.
Well, he was exceptional. Exceptional.
Remember Dante Culpepper?
Well, Dante Culpepper wasn't that good where they was worried about him getting injured. In all due respect to him.
He was all right.
Listen, I just think we forget how athletic quarterback and how non-athletic some of the quarterbacks are today.
Yeah, John Elway was athletic.
Yeah, John Elway was an outstanding running quarterback. He'd take off, you know, and make things happen. He'd make things happen.
So I mean, I think there's just more talk about it today than it was back then.
I agree.
That's just what
and
the
it's
quarterback.
more prevalent in college. Look at it. And I think you're right. But, Jack, what was Rick talking about 50 years?
Oh, no, since the Jets have won a Super Bowl. But listen, he's a Viking fan. So what is he? He hasn't won. They haven't won any Super Bowls.
But they've been more Super Bowls than the Jets.
Yeah. Vikings haven't won any, you know, which is hard to believe because they've had a pretty good franchise since the Super Bowl years have begun. And they've kind of been in the mix. I mean, they had that one great year that was heartbreaking when they were 15-1 on the season. They have a 7-point lead, a few minutes left.
That was Randall Cunningham as the quarterback, right?
Right, exactly. And they miss a field goal, and that would have been the game. They would have been up 10 points, and they're going to the Super Bowl. They missed the field goal. The Falcons tie it up. And people forget the Vikings had 2 offensive possessions in overtime in that game and failed to get into field goal range. And they lose to the Falcons, who are 14-2. They were a good team themselves. Then the Falcons get blown out by the Broncos.
They were in the championship game, too, in 2001 when they played the Giants. The Giants beat them 48-0, and they went on to play the Ravens.
The Giants went.
I think that was Brett Favre. Well, it wasn't.
No, Brett Favre was late on. Like lost to New Orleans. So the year New Orleans beats the Colts in the Super Bowl, New Orleans edges that outstanding Viking team. And Brett Favre had maybe one of his best years, of his career with the Vikings. And you think of what it means to a guy's legacy. How would we look at Brett Favre had he won a Super Bowl as a Minnesota Viking? We probably would have looked at him the same way we look at Peyton Manning as being a Denver Bronco as well as an Indianapolis Colts quarterback.
Yeah. I got one update in the Giants news. They led the NFL in roughing the passer last year, so I'm proud.
The Giants did?
Yeah, so I'm proud of my Giants.
Well, that's Thibodeau probably got some of those.
I'm very proud.
Now, he didn't get close enough to the quarterback.
We're not bragging what we got. We're just gonna punish
you. You played on the edge. You're a dirty team.
That's right, and I can't wait to go to Aaron Rodgers and rough him up a little bit. Him and his Greek god body there.
It's the scheme. It's the defensive scheme.
Yes,
that's always
all the time.
That some of that is a disadvantage.
Yes, it is. It definitely is. Some Philly news. I know, like I said, I don't know if the Philly guy is going to be in here or not, but we do have our guest coming up in 10 minutes. The road winning streak for the Philly ends. The Phillies end, and that was quite a streak they had on. They made up a lot of ground. They're still behind Miami. Miami, I think, beat them last night. So the Miami Marlins have a good team.
I'm impressed with them. I'm really impressed.
Well, 3 teams get in the wild card in the National League, and the Phillies aren't going to win that division. The Atlanta Braves are. So let's say it's Miami, Philadelphia. Now you start talking about the Dodgers, the Giants, and you wonder between the Mets and the Padres, can one of them make a really big run because they've been 2 major disappointments this year. So things are, up for grabs, for at least the 3rd wild card position.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, Bryce Harper. He got hit on his surgically repaired elbow. He's okay. Of course, he hasn't been what he's been for the Phillies. Imagine if he wasn't hurt, they'd probably be in a lot better position than they are now. But he will be able to play soon after he goes through everything. They X-rayed him, nothing wrong with it, so that's good news for them. Mets pitcher Stroman could be a pitcher.
Cub pitcher, former Met pitcher. Cubs
yeah, he could be. He could. Yeah, Cubs. Sorry, Jack. He could be going to the Phillies. Contracts coming out. That would be good for the Phillies. So we'll see if the Phillies can improve the pitching.
That means the Cubs would have given up on the season because he's pitched really well for the Cubs. He's a bit of a lightning rod because he talks a lot. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you kind of wear out your welcome with the front office. They get tired of certain guys can become high maintenance. He might be one of them.
Let me ask you this question on Major League Baseball. When do you want to be hot? Do you want to be hot before the All-Star game or after? Because you've seen, the reason I'm asking you that, because I watch the Texas Rangers. Obviously, I'm in Texas. I'm a Yankees fan for life, but I was watching them, and they're really struggling right now.
Yeah, they are.
Even in their batting, they're really struggling. But they were hot for the beginning of the season. Now they're I think they're only 3 games ahead of Houston.
Yep.
And I'd rather be hot at the end. And I think that helps you build off the playoffs. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I would agree with that, Jim. I listen. Your record's your record, right? I think if you have a good enough team to make the playoffs, it's 0-0 when you start. But I think there's something to be said. Maybe not as much as the NFL. Baseball, they say that you're trying to think of the word for it, but your momentum is good till the next pitcher. So that's not the same as football or something.
Yeah, I would agree.
So
I think in football, even though it's a long season for a player, I think you can recharge yourself kind of for the playoffs, maybe get motivated. A lot of it's a mindset, too. I think with baseball, it's just who happens to be playing better at that moment, and it could turn very quickly in baseball. I mean, I remember the 2006 Detroit Tigers. They blew the division. They were awful, the worst team in baseball at the end of the year, but they got into the playoffs as a wild card. they lose the first game to the Yankees, and all of a sudden they go on a tear and get to the World Series. It turns around so quickly in baseball.
It definitely does. Definitely does. The 76ers, big man Paul Reed signs $23 million 4-year deal with Utah. And the Clippers, it looks like we got our guest coming in, so let me finish up here. The Clippers forward to land are the favorite to land Harden right now. So that deal's been out there with James Harden and the Clippers for a while.
He just wastes money, that guy. He does. He really does. Because think about it. He's got all these high prices, but they never reach their expectations.
Right.
Kawhi Leonard, is he going to play next year? And how many games is he going to play? Paul George, is he going to play next year? Let's be honest about it.
Well, we shall see when the year comes up. I just hope if Kawhi gets injured again, he doesn't go up into the owner's booth and he does go stay on the bench. Yeah. So how you doing today, Kermit? We have Kermit Washington, former NBA player, joining us today. Glad you could make it in, Kermit. And next to me is Jim Jeffcoat, two-time Super Bowl champion of the Dallas Cowboys.
How you doing, Kermit?
Yeah, good. I appreciate you giving me a call.
Yeah, and we have Jack Hirsch, who is in the Boxing Hall of Fame. He's a Boxing Hall of Fame writer. So he does a boxing show for us, too, on the network.
And he's a huge Jets fan.
Hey, well, it's nice talking to you. My workout partner every morning is Hasim Rahman. So I'm
no kidding.
With them every day working out. So he's a big
former heavyweight champion, Hasim Rahman, best known for knocking out Lennox Lewis with one punch. Yeah. We won't say what happened in the rematch, though.
Oh, but you know what though? You know what I tell him? No matter who you are, if you fight long enough, you're going to get beat. That's the bottom line.
Oh yeah.
That's
Floyd Mayweather.
Well, you know what? He didn't fight long enough. That's a secret. Get out with it.
And he's fighting. Yes, and he's fighting exhibition fights right now that don't count towards his record. So if he does lose,
he just makes money now. That's better. That's about it. Big time money.
Kermit, I always start the guests off with what makes him drawn to a certain sport. What made you drawn to basketball when you were younger? Why did you want to play that and not some of the other sports?
No, I love football 10 times more than anything else. I love football. My brother played pro football with the St. Louis Cardinals. He was a quarterback. I was a quarterback in high school. The problem back then, especially for my brother, they didn't let blacks quarterback in college. So after high school, that was it. He became a defensive back at Texas El Paso. It used to be Texas Western back then. And you know what? I love football, but you get hurt all the time in football. You're always injured. And you know what? And I think people can understand who watch football or played football. I grew up in Washington, D.C., where it's 100 degrees, 80% humidity. I hated football practice. And back then, I don't know about Jeff, if you remember, you're maybe a little bit younger than I am. I don't know. But they didn't let you have any water during practice. So you had 3-hour practice, no water, because they thought you would get cramps. Yeah. So it was a living nightmare to go through 2 days for 2-3 hour days of practice and no water. All of us would have sold our soul to the devil for some water in those practices.
True.
But that is true.
That's
I grew up on the East Coast too, Kermit.
Me too.
So the thing is, basketball is easier.
Yes.
And basketball, you play inside. The environment's the same. Football is cold weather, hot weather, raining, snowing. And to this day, I love football to watch. Basketball, I don't watch it as much. People don't believe that, but I love football. I just love watching football.
And that's the question I had for you is, what do you think about the current state of pro basketball?
Now say that again.
The current state of pro basketball. What do you think?
The athletes are so much better. It is so much better. The problem is that they're taking these young kids out so early, they don't learn the fundamentals. And the coaches in pro ball, not like maybe football for you, Jeff, they don't have time to teach all the fundamentals that is needed for these young kids to learn, because the season starts so fast. The guys, they, as you know, if you played sports, you need rest. And with the NBA, you can't go to practice and practice for 3 hours and then get on the plane and fly, then play, get a day off and play again. So, and a lot of the guys that are on the bench that could be playing don't know the fundamentals to be successful. So they need more time. When you go to college, you have a good coach, you learn those fundamentals.
But we don't hear about fundamentals in today's NBA. Everything is one-on-one. Everyone seems to want to be a highlight reel.
Well, you know what? The coaches have changed that. When I played, Jack Ramsey and all the other guys, no, there were plays that everybody was included. But now I think because of the defense and because back then you could hand check, you could really body a person going through the lane. You can't do that anymore. So you have such good offensive players. Like, there's not that many stars in the league. Well, let me say this. There's so many teams now. Back when I was playing, I think there were 16 teams. But then they became more teams as I was playing, as time went on. You had a lot of good players on each team. Nowadays, because there's so many teams, you might have one or two players that really have offensive abilities that could really get a bucket when you need a bucket. But back then, if you had plays and set good picks, people got the ball right under the basket or something like that. Very easy baskets. Now, nowadays, they and the players are different now too. They're making so much money. I mean, it is what one player makes now, the whole league was not making when I played. The guys, let's say a guy makes $50 million a year now. Well, the whole league was not making $50 million. That's every player in the whole entire league. Jerry West, when I came in, I think it was the highest paid at $300,000, but most of the guys were making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000.
Wow.
Now the minimum wage is what, $800,000, I think, something like maybe $900,000. I don't know. That's sitting on the bench and never getting in the game. So the motivation for a lot of players has dropped. Back then you played hard. Well, the superstars play hard every game. Like Michael and Bird and Magic and Dominique, all those guys back then, didn't make any difference how much they made money. They wanted to be the very best. And whatever it took for them to be the very best, they were going to do. Now, money, they made money because they were the best. Nowadays, guys, they get a nick on their finger and they're going to take a day off. We could not take days off.
Kermit, when you were in college, you were one of only 7 players in NCAA history to average 20 points and 20 rebounds. And of course, your big game was inside the rebounds and that. When you came to the Lakers, was it tougher than you thought going from college to pro?
Yeah.
I know. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it was, and I'll tell you the reason why. Well, first of all, as I was telling you, I played football. I didn't play basketball till my senior year in high school. And my best friend had a car, and was only one car in the whole high school of 1,500 people. So back then, I didn't have cars. And he said he would give me a ride to school and a ride home if I went out for the basketball team. So I said, okay, I'll play. I may not get in the games, but if it's going to get me a ride to school and a ride home, hey, that sounds good to me. But then some of the guys on the team didn't do their schoolwork, and all of a sudden I got a chance to play a little. I might have averaged in high school my senior year, maybe 5 points and 5 rebounds. That's it. But because I was a good football player and other sports, I embarrassed myself and said, let me get better in basketball to be better on the playground. That's it. That is it. But because I guess I had a lot of pride, I read an article about Spencer Haywood, who was in the Olympics, and he had a weight vest. And I said, okay, he ran with a weight vest. So then I had a friend named James Brown, who does the footballs on Sunday.
Yes.
The host. James Brown, he was a great basketball player, not football. So most people think James Brown, who does the football every Sunday and co-host, is a CBS. I don't know which one it is anymore. Yes. But he would jump rope. So what I did, I put the two together, and I started jumping rope. and I got up to jumping rope 10,000 times a night with a 20-pound weight vest.
Yeah.
And so I just learned that I could be in better shape than everybody else because I wanted to make it. Growing up in D.C., back then, the only time people made it was either in sports or entertainment. Now, we're talking about this, the early, I grew up in the 50s and the 60s, and things weren't very good back then. So when I started doing that, I got so good so fast. And just because of jumping ability and conditioning, I improved so fast. I mean, like, I'll give you a good example. Back then, you couldn't play freshman ball in college. You had to play, you couldn't play varsity. You had to play freshman. So I go into college and averaging 5 points and 5 rebounds as a senior in high school. I averaged about 19 points and 23 rebounds a game as a freshman. Right. And because of the conditioning and growing up in D.C., another lucky thing, I grew up 2 blocks away from the most popular playground in D.C. And 10 of us that played on that playground made the NBA. Wow. So if I hadn't lived 2 blocks away from the playground, going and competing with those guys, I never would have made it in college or pro because you need that competition. And so then my coach, Tom Young, says, well, Kermit, when you do varsity next year, if you can average 10 points and 10 rebounds, we'll be very happy. But now, once again, I jump rope every night. Then they started me lifting weights. I had never lifted weights before in my life. And so I started lifting weights. And my sophomore year, I averaged about 19 points and 21 rebounds. And I was second in the nation in rebounding next to Artis Gilmore, and Dr. J was number 3. Now, I didn't realize because of the conditioning, and I think most people who play sports, I just learned that if I could be in better shape, I never got tired. And back then, you didn't come out of a college basketball game. You played the whole game unless you got in foul trouble. And I only fouled out of probably one game in probably 80 or 90. But every year, I just kept getting better and gaining weight because I went into college very skinny. And through lifting weights, and back then they didn't have good weights. They just had the universal machine and stuff like that. So I said, oh, okay. I gained 80 pounds in 4 years of college through lifting weights. And so then I got into pro ball at 240. But here's the thing. I played center in college. And see, once again, I'm talking about fundamentals. I had never played the forward position. And the forward position and the center position is like night and day. It's like a person that watches a football game, and most of us don't really know the difference between a fullback and a halfback. They'll say, oh, both of them are back there. They both carry the ball sometimes. But no, there's 2 different positions, and I had to learn the fundamentals of the forward position, and I went and found a coach named Pete Newell.
I was going to ask.
Yes, coach. Yes. And I told him, I said, listen, you got to help me learn how to play this forward position. So the first 2.5 years, you're correct, I sat on that bench. But they had good players, Connie Hawkins, Bill Bridges, people that were all-stars. But I could have been better if I had good coaching at that position. And that's what Pete Newell did for me. And after he worked with me that one summer, hey, my career just took off. Took off.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, I'm glad you brought that up. So you did play for Boston, you played for the Clippers, you played for Portland, Golden State. I think you played for at least the Warriors. What was your favorite team that you played for?
You know what it was? I loved the Lakers, but when I came to the Lakers, I was 21, and most of those guys were 35. They were older guys, so it wasn't as enjoyable being around older veterans and not playing a lot. And on top of that, I was making more money than a lot of the veterans that were playing because I was the 5th player picked in the draft. So they weren't very happy about that. And because I wasn't playing, that's another thing. But that's why I had to work hard to get off the bench. But I like the Lakers. You like playing in Showtime. You like playing where you have all the movie stars, everybody there. Boston I loved. Because Red Auerbach, I had known Red Auerbach since I was 17 years old. His daughter went to college with us. So I met him when I was about 17 years old. and he kept in touch. He's the one that saved me. Let's bring it up after the altercation with Rudy Tomjanovich. He's the one that says, I'm grabbing Kermit because I've known Kermit since he was young, and I want him on the Celtics team. So he saved me, and I love playing for the Celtics. But then again, they traded franchises. The owner of Buffalo and the owner of Boston switched franchises, and they took the franchise to San Diego.
Yeah.
And in that switch, they said, we want Kermit Washington, we want Sidney Wicks, we want these players, or we won't make the trade. So I'd leave from Boston to go to San Diego. Okay. Then I like San Diego. But then Bill Walton wanted to come to San Diego because that's where he grew up.
Yeah.
And I was compensation for him. So they sent me to Portland. So I was moving around a lot. And I didn't want to move. I liked San Diego. San Diego was the only city that it wasn't a lot of pressure to play. LA, you have pressure. Boston, you have pressure. Yes. Even in Portland, you have a different kind of pressure because those fans love you so much. It's like a religion. And they love you so much that you don't want to let them down. San Diego, we won. We weren't a great team, but we had a winning record. We had a good team, but you didn't have the pressure. People were down there. It was like vacation. They came to the game because they had nothing else to do probably. So I liked all the teams.
Well, you were talking about cultures, Kermit, a little while ago. Playing for the Celtics, there was talk at the time it was more difficult for a black player to play in Boston. Did you find that to be the case?
If you're playing well, no. No, if you're playing well. I played well in Boston. For me, I played well. I think about 12 points and 10 rebounds or 12 rebounds. I came off the bench, and you know what, with me, I was so naive. Just give me an opportunity to play. I'm ready to play. And if, that's right after the Rudy Tomjanovich thing. So I just wanted, to settle down and get everything going. And the good thing, let me tell you about Boston. Everybody, after the Rudy Tomjanovich thing, I was the most hated player in the league, except for where I played. So every city I went to, they threw stuff at me, they booed me, everything else like that. So, and I tell you, not a funny story, but what I knew, I had to be in such good shape to be able to withstand the negativity in everywhere I went. So when I went to Boston, there was a snow blizzard. It was a blizzard. So I didn't find a place to live. I just said to Red Auerbach, I'll stay in the hotel for the next 3 months because every other week you're gone. But this hotel had 29 flights of stairs. It was 29 flights. I took my weight vest, and every day I ran that. If I was in the city, I ran it 10 times every day. From the first floor to the 29th floor with the weight vest, take the elevator down and run back up. Now, you couldn't put a gun to my head to even make me walk up those steps anymore. But I had to do that because of what I was facing, which when I say what I was facing was the animosity from the fans in every city I went to, except for the cities I played in, because they got to know me. They knew the whole story. They didn't just see it on television and believe exactly what they saw.
I like to hear that because I was reading about you and information. And is it Cutter?
It was Kevin Cooner.
Cooner, and he initiated all this, didn't he?
Well, he was a 7-footer, the center, and it was a rebound. And back then, they didn't have cameras in every angle. Now, that like nowadays, they could have caught everything. It was Kareem, me, and Kevin. I don't know if I said that correctly, grammatically correct, but it was a rebound. And I think John Lucas had the ball and was taking off for a fast break. I put my hand on Kevin Cooner's race to try to propel myself past him to catch up to the fast break. He elbows me in the face. But at first, I thought it was an accident. Maybe it was just his way he was swinging his arms trying to run down the court. But then he turns around and hits me in my face. And so then I knew this wasn't an accident. So we got in an altercation. And as Kareem is breaking it up, I see Rudy running behind me, and I thought he was running to hit me. And so I turned and swung. And so that changed the history of Kermit Washington in basketball. So I think they suspended me for 2 months or 3 months. I had the biggest fine in the history of basketball. Now, they didn't care what started the fight. They didn't care. They cared about public opinion and how it was viewed. And so I was a scapegoat, and they didn't want to hear that Kevin, they didn't do anything to Kevin Coonan, nothing. They didn't act like he never existed. It was just Kermit Washington turned around and hit Rudy Tomjanovich for nothing. But, that's 1977. So this is not, even nowadays, they would probably have done the same thing, but they have so many different angles. So they suspended me, and it was difficult because every city you go to, you're going to get booed and stuff thrown at you and stuff like that. And that's why I ran those stairs. I said, I got to punish myself so much. I got to be able to withstand mentally what I've got to face for the rest of this year and maybe the next year. And I did well, because if you work hard and you're in better shape, I just know the guys in the NBA, most of them were better players than I was, but I just thought I would be in better shape, just better shape than they were.
So go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, do you regret Kermit throwing that punch? Obviously, the repercussions. Couldn't you have defended yourself in another way when someone was charging at you? And it happened so quickly. You didn't have a chance to analyze what was going on, who it was. It's a split-second decision you have to make. Could you have just thrown your hands up and stepped back?
Well, not really. Not when you grow up in D.C.
I agree.
Not when you grow up in the inner city. You don't. I'll give you a good example. The year before, we were playing the Buffalo Braves, and I got in an altercation with John Shoemate, but 3 of his teammates jumped me. And when the altercation starts, it was like, what were their names? Aziz. It was like 3 guys. Emmett Bryant, Fred Foster. They all jumped me, and none of my teammates helped me. So that was just a year before. I mean, the NBA was very tough back then. It's not like it is now.
No, it isn't.
It was very tough because you got a $50 fine for fighting. And you had people like Willis Reed beat up the whole Laker team. You had other guys. I mean, it was a different world. They didn't play back then. I mean, so you get a $50 fine for fighting. That's it. But because of the image of the NBA, they really put it to me, and they tried to turn everything around, which I think they did, until a couple of guys like Meta World and them got fights a couple of years ago.
I was just going to ask you about that too, Kermit. Today you see, players having fans removed because they're yelling things at them and stuff like that. And I know they've done that all, since basketball pretty much has started. They've been yelling things at the players, booing them, like you say, throwing things. So that's changed a lot too. The perception of what's wrong and what's proper behavior in the NBA too, as opposed to the fans. I don't remember fans getting thrown out when I was growing up watching basketball. It was all the players.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. It's perception. I'll give you a good example. I never got a technical in my life in high school, college, or pro. Never one. I was always respectful to the referees, because I learned that the better you were to them, they would give you the benefit of the doubt. Never. The fans didn't know anything about me. I never smoked in my life. I've never drank any alcohol in my life. I've never cursed in my life. I'm not religious, so I want you guys to know that. Never in my life have I ever done that. And in college, I graduated almost a straight A my last 2 years of college, won academic awards, postgraduate awards, captain of the team, captain of my pro teams. So I was always quiet, but I learned growing up in D.C. and in the NBA, you can't let somebody just let's not use the word punk you, but you can't let people be aggressive toward you and not respond. And I'll give you a good example. AC Green was a very good player, right? When he went to Phoenix or wherever he went, he got in an altercation with J.R. Reed. And J.R. Reed knocked his teeth out. And instead of him retaliating, he starts looking for his teeth. So the rest of the league said, well, AC Green is all bark and no bite. You can't have that. You have to have respect, or at least people know you're going to fight back or retaliate.
Well, that's the same thing that happened with Michael Jordan. Jordan rules with Detroit. With Detroit did the Michael Jordan.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. But see, Chicago didn't have anybody to retaliate to protect Michael until Oakley went there, or people like that. You have to have people knowing that, there's going to be consequences for trying to hurt Michael or hurt the superstars on other teams. Exactly. And that's just the way things are. It's a pecking order. Yep. And we as the players, just like in boxing or football, the pecking order if you're a player. Mm-hmm. Maybe the public can't see it, but we as players, we know who to mess with. Like with me, I didn't want Daryl the Dawkins to ever get mad at me. Oh my God. Yeah. He ripped out the toilet when he got mad at Lucas that time.
Kermit, before the show, we were talking about things that sometimes define a play, and we were talking about one of Jim Jeffcoat's former teammates, Leon Lett, great player, but he had a couple of plays that define him in people's minds. The incident with Rudy Tomjanovich, you had an excellent career, but people think about that when your name comes up. Does that bother you a lot?
Listen. When I die, or unfortunately when he dies, that's going to come up. I guarantee you. But they don't, as I say, they don't really want to know the truth. And you know what I've learned? I can't worry about what people think. You can't worry. You got to live your life. And you know who you are, and you know the circumstances. But here's the thing. I tell people, my first 17 years of life wasn't fun at all, but for next 50 years or so, wonderful. I mean, the opportunities. When you grew up in Washington, D.C., my mother was paranoid schizophrenic. So we were taken away from her. We were homeless for a while. Then they put us with my great-grandmother, born in 1886. Couldn't read or write. So it's kind of rough. So, and for me and my brother to make it, we just said, we didn't care. And that's the difference between, I think, some of us in our generation. I didn't really care if we lived or died. Whatever it took for us to make it, we were going to try to make it.
Let me ask you that, because that's a good point you make. Do you think that a lot of these European players that are coming over to the NBA, that's the reason? You see it with Luka, you see it with Jokovic, you see a lot of these players come from situations where they got to make it. Because the last, 4 MVPs have been from Europe.
Or someplace, Abib, the Greek Freak,
Giannis,
the Joker, all of these guys come from other countries.
Yes.
They initially maybe have been here for many years, but they didn't come. I think they were maybe more hungry, because you have to understand, you got to work. And back when I was playing, there probably was like 250 players. Now I think they got 500, 400, 500, but that's because of the union did a good job, because you got 5 guys that never going to get in the game, and they're getting paid really well, because that's the strength of the union. But like, I try to tell kids nowadays, and I talk to them, I said, you've got to work. There's so much money out there if you pay the price. But I think a lot of kids think they should just, it's easy. It's just like football. It is not easy.
No.
It is not easy to be good. It's very difficult. And you only got, let's say 500 from the world. We're not talking about United States anymore.
That's true.
Coming from everywhere. I wonder, that's a good question. How many players are from other countries now in the NBA? 50? Maybe more. And they're some of the best players because they're hungry. They come here and work. Like, you can't get a finer guy than the Greek Freak. What a gentleman. Yeah. I mean, you can't, and you have the Joker. He doesn't take.
And they have fundamentals. They work on fundamentals.
Yes, fundamentals, and they're not trying to show off. No. They're not trying to be, just listen. One thing you learn is that put the work in, get the work done, you'll get paid. Don't try to be somebody you're not, because people can see through that. But, you're right. You got all these great players coming from other countries now because they saw what has to be done. And most of them can shoot. Now, ball players in the inner city and stuff, they can drive to the bucket. But how many of them are great shooters?
But you also got to admit, if they're playing outside on outside courts, the weather factors make a difference because that's how we learn to play.
That's right.
You were taking it to the hole because the wind could bother you or something could bother you.
Well, and not only that, the thing is what you're saying. We play it on the playgrounds. These kids now with AAU, they all play outside, and it's a different world. But they have better coaching, but really put in the work. The bottom line is, I tell people, this is what you got to do. Very few would do it. Okay, so I have the record for 50-some years. Nobody has matched my record in college in 50-some years. They're better than me. I guarantee you they're better than me. But the thing is, are you going to jump rope, 10,000 times a night with a weight vest? Or are you going to lift weights, an hour or so every day? And because what I did, I didn't run around the streets. All I did was try to get better in basketball. And it was very difficult to get better. And I just had to find people to help me. Please help me get off this bench, I used to tell the coaches. Help me, whatever I have to do. Because here's a good analogy. I was like in a rowboat trying to row to land, but I was rowing hard out to sea. I needed somebody turn me around and say, you're going the wrong way. And so that's how I caught Pete Newell and other people like that. And then all of a sudden I started going the right way. But it's life is like that. And so I'm very happy with my life. I have had some ups and downs and some other things that went, which shouldn't have happened, but did happen. But I'm happy with my life.
Kermit, we got like 4 minutes left before the show ends. Let's talk a little bit about your life after basketball. As you said, it was some ups and downs, but you did found the 6-man foundation project. You were involved in a refugee camp. You've done a lot of great things. And tell us a little bit about the great things and some of the things that happened to you that maybe weren't so great. You got 4 minutes.
In 1994, I went to Rwanda with some doctors during the genocide where 1 million people were killed. I worked in a refugee camp and a Red Cross. My daughter saw it on TV, said, "Hey, Dad, you need to go help." I said, "Girl, you're going to get me killed. There's a war going on." But I got on a plane. I went with some doctors and nurses to Rwanda and Goma, Zaire, and worked. But then I went back for the next 25 years. I built a clinic, built a school. We were feeding 40,000 people a year. The clinic was seeing about 100,000. We educated a lot of kids, and just from the basketball players, like Michael Jordan would give me jerseys or shoes, and I would do things. I used my own money to try to help as many people as I can. We were feeding about 10,000 people in LA, but nobody knew about it. I just kept my mouth shut about it. But real quickly, a guy that was selling the stuff for me started asking me, real quickly says, "Can I start selling some of my own stuff on a website from eBay?" I said, "Yeah, you can." He started selling counterfeit software from China. And because I was the CEO and the founder of the charitable organization, the feds came after me. I said, "What are you talking?" I didn't know what they're talking about. Now, here's it real quickly. I took the polygraph test, which is on the YouTube, Kermit Washington polygraph test. It proves I knew nothing about what they were talking about. But what they did, they went after some other people that were innocent too. And so for me to protect people that were innocent, I said, I'll take a plea agreement. But if you ever have the chance, they said, well, Kermit was spending money, this and that. Go to YouTube. That's what made them really mad. They hated me because it proves not only did I not know what they were talking about with the counterfeit software, which started the federal investigation, it shows that I put about $300,000 of my own money and my retirement money to run the clinic. And that's proven by passing the polygraph test, but you won't hear them say that. So what I'm saying is I had to go to prison for 4 years. But if I didn't go to prison, they were going to go after other people that were innocent, that were older, innocent, good people. And I wouldn't let that happen because I was 67 years old. I said, listen, I've lived a good life and I know I could take prison. I knew I could. I didn't want to go. Prison not easy, but I knew I could do it. So I'm out. The people that the doctors and nurses, and they're suffering in Africa because I'm not there. They're suffering. Tens of thousands are suffering because I used to take care of all those people, but I don't have the money anymore that I have because I lost my job. And it's, with me, my life is simpler. I'm okay, but I can't help the kind of people I helped before. And that's why I said I would love to help train people or whatever, things like that, because when you get out of prison, they limit you what you can do.
Sure.
You can't teach, you can't coach, you can't do things like that.
Right.
Because you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to travel some places like Canada or England, anything else like that. And so a lot of things are restrictions. But, as I told you, I'm very happy with my life. From growing up homeless and everything else like that, I could not have ever dreamed that my life would be what it was.
Well, Kermit Washington, I want to thank you for coming on. I knew this would be a very interesting segment. Yeah, and being open, a lot of people wouldn't do that. So, to me, you're a great guy. You had a heart, you had a heart, you overcame, and you helped a lot of people. So, thank you again for coming on. We appreciate it. And good luck to you in the rest of your life, Kermit.
Listen, good luck to you.
I appreciate that. As I told you, I'm happy with my life. Whatever happens after this is like gravy. Okay, take care, guys.
Thank you.